live with a special weather update. This is ABC 27 News.
And hello, everyone. We're interrupting programming because we have our first tornado warned storm for the year, and we're talking into Mifflin County. So we saw this wave of showers and storms developing sort of during the maximum heating of the day. And I've got Dan Tomaso into the Weather Center. We also have Jackson Chastain on standby. So let's just get kind of the bare details for you right now. There is a tornado warning for northeastern Mifflin County. And that's going to be until about 4:15. So it's not going to be a very long-lived tornado warned storm. We're just talking about for the next 10 minutes. So we're looking at a radar indicated, or Dan's kind of looking at this very closely now. I'm going to give you some towns that we are kind of keeping a close eye on in this area. So we're talking, they're seeing some rotation near Reed's Gap State Park. That's moving north at about 15 miles an hour. So we're going to zoom into that area that Dan's talking about right now. We are getting some lightning strikes. What I am noticing at the same time, Dan, there's some almost tropical-like downpours with these storms. This is not going to be something that's going to be very easily seen as we get this system moving through. And also, when we're talking the direction of it, a lot of the times we're not, when we get this upper level low, the direction of these storms kind of lifting from the southeast to the northwest. So not in the typical direction that we're seeing too. Let's see if I can give you a couple of other locations. Siglerville, another spot. So we're talking in areas, more remote areas, that if we're to see any type of rotation involved, Dan's highlighting that for us right now. Let's see the speed of that one, moving north at 15 miles an hour. So
it's
this is
slow
not a very
mover.
fast-moving system, Dan.
We're not getting many towns, unfortunately, on the radar, so this is pretty remote. And I have it moving to the northwest here at about 20 miles per hour, so I overestimated just a bit. But so this is to the east and southeast of Milroy, east of the Reedsville area. Again, hopefully over some rural terrain, but obviously, if you have any friends or family that could be out camping or like to be out hiking in this area, certainly a time to be letting them know that there is some pretty strong weather moving in your direction. Oftentimes, Eric, we get tornadoes in this area that are a few minutes long. And in fact, today, just going back to yesterday, we had some showers blow through the region with some quick spin-ups.
Yep. It
was confirmed in Lancaster County, a 1-minute-long tornado outside of Denver, Pennsylvania. So these tend to be very, very quick, but they can produce at least some isolated damage. And we should also mention, too, that more often the case, low end. I don't like to use weak tornado. A tornado is a tornado, but low end tornado. So we're talking typically in these given systems, EF0 type tornadoes, if they even develop. Yes, there was one that happened in Berks County. It sounded like it did damage a few sheds into the area around Berks County. Nonetheless, that's the kind of system that we're looking at right now. If we're to get any rotation from it, Dan's highlighting it to you. So especially this time of the day, when we start to get a little more worried when we're talking very high populated areas. But regardless, if you're living in northeastern Mifflin County, you're probably getting an alert on your phone, which that's the good thing nowadays too. That if we are to see any type of tornado warned storm, a lot of us are getting more and more of those alerts much quicker. So you can always check out our app too. No matter where you're going, if you're not really anywhere near a TV, you're still able to catch us when we're talking and tracking some of these tornado warned storms. And it's a good way to kind of get things a little bit of a refresher, since this is the first time this year we've had a tornado warning. We kind of be keeping a close eye. We seem to be very, very close, Dan, quite often to storms. It just seems like Western Pennsylvania really highlighted the last couple of weeks for stronger storms. But for us, this is really the first time that we're getting some beneficial rain, and we're sort of getting into the activity too. Yeah, and as we talked about on the air yesterday and throughout the morning and even during the noon broadcast, we expected most of the heavy rain to be west of the river. I do want to mention this is actually a very short fuse warning, Eric, so we're not anticipating a threat to be long here, and actually it'll be moving into Center County probably within the next 10 minutes. So again, this is to the east of Milroy, and it's this notch here that's kind of bulged out in a weird way. So again, it doesn't take very much, but it's this kind of wrapped up rotation, if you will, that continues to drift northward. And again, I'm not showing any towns in this area because it is relatively rural. Just kind of keep in mind that this is going to be hard to see. It's either with some heavy rain or a lot of trees, a lot of hilly ground in this area too. So, again, heavy rain potential, obviously there's some wind potential, but also noted rotation, and that's the reason for this tornado warning. So again, why are we on the air? This is to the east of Milroy. This is in far northwestern parts of the viewing area into Mifflin County, sliding into Center County. We'll wait to see if this gets extended beyond 4:15, Eric, but at least at this point, we have a tornado warning for the next 4 minutes, and hopefully this doesn't cause any damage.
And I noticed too, you didn't really zoom into street level because there's probably not that many streets.
Well, let's try.
Yeah, we can do the best we can. Sometimes too, even removing the radar to maybe help a little bit, but when we were initially given this tornado warning storm, they highlighted Reeds Gap State Park. So for anybody that may be in or near Reeds Gap State Park, on a day like today, I'm sure not as many, slowly moving north and west. And they also mentioned areas that could be impacted by this would be Siglerville. So towns that were not, that you don't really hear that often, or at least little kind of locations. Milroy, probably the area that's closest, we're a lot more familiar with along Route 322. And what we're looking at, any rotation that may exist, is going to be east of Milroy. So that's what we're watching.
I'm going to pull up the latest on velocity here. So very kind of muddy image here, Eric. I could see what triggered that initial warning. You can kind of see there's a brief burst in the winds. I'll try to highlight that too. It's right past Serratoville, I believe is how you want to say that. So right there is where the warning was likely triggered, and it continues to drift north out of that area now.
And there's Burnham, there's Milroy, so we're a lot more familiar for anyone that travels up towards State College or Penn State area. Those are probably more common town names for us. So that seems to be just to the east of it. And when you highlighted that a little bit of circulation, if we were to see any, it's not long, and it's going to be moving out of Mifflin County. So we're about 2 minutes away, maybe 2 to 3 minutes left of this tornado warning storm.
So there's the shear track history, just to kind of highlight where that circulation was. And again, just near the Serratoville area, east of Milroy, heading over some pretty high terrain. In fact, if you look closely, this is a relief map. And so what does that mean? That means you can actually see the hilltops here kind of highlighted. So again, we are in very, very rugged terrain, if you will, for this area, likely impacting a lot of trees. Again, visibility would be very, very poor in this area if there was anything to touch the ground.
And some people believe that, these mountains break up any tornadoes, which is not entirely true. Anytime we can get these tornadoes to develop, it doesn't necessarily fall apart when we're moving over mountainous areas. We seem to have more of those ingredients often when you get down into York and Lancaster, but that has more to do with more moisture related. So yes, just because we're in mountain areas doesn't mean that these tornadoes tend to fall apart. And kind of an interesting setup. And when you showed that shear, Dan, I'm quite impressed with the amount of shear in place. This isn't one of those typical days where we're seeing these towering cumulus clouds getting ready for what's going to be hail, damaging winds, and the potential for some of these rotating cells. No, I'm not anticipating any type of hail from this, and it would be more damaging winds, and if we can get maybe, like I said, a low-end tornado, an EF0, if something like that would occur.
And that's what was confirmed today in Lancaster County from yesterday's showers. Again, it was an EF0 tornado near the Denver area that was confirmed by the National Weather Service in State College. But the bottom line is, Eric, the moral of the story, this big circulating low that's bringing in these showers and thunderstorms, that's where the spin is coming from. So any of these showers, even if there's not a lot of lightning today, we could get a brief spin up in areas, and that's exactly what happened yesterday. And there was no warning yesterday. There's a warning today over Mifflin County that should expire in about 10 seconds.
Well, and you highlighted brief. So if we were to see this happen again, and we have to interrupt programming, it's likely going to be brief. Dan, if we could, for anyone else that is watching, let's just kind of get a much larger area. And I do believe once we get this kind of first wave to kind of move north and west, our focus is primarily going to be our western region. Brett Thacker highlighted that this morning too. So I would say Western Adams, Franklin, even Western Cumberland, and then into our what we call Ridge and Valley locations, Perry, Mifflin, Juniata counties. I think there's going to be less activity into York, Lancaster, Lebanon, even Dauphin throughout this evening, other than perhaps just an isolated shower in spots. It is now 4:15, so that warning has expired, Dan. We will continue to watch for any other storms that may become strong to severe. that may produce a tornado warning. As that wave begins to move out, I still think there will be some more showers overnight. And then finally, Dan, when that wave does move through, we'll get a round of rain heading to Tuesday night, Wednesday morning.
Yeah, I mean, this is part of a much larger system. I'm going to try to pull up a much bigger view of radar. So again, just kind of taking a broader view of everything that's happening. It's mostly western PA that's in the crosshairs right now for heavy rain and severe weather over eastern Ohio, western Pennsylvania. But the center of the low is way back here over parts of northern Kentucky and southwestern Ohio. So we have tonight to deal with this. We have tomorrow as well. There's more heavy rain than there is severe weather, at least in store for us.
It seems like we've waited for rain so long that when it's here,
Yep.
It doesn't take too long to get tired of it, especially after 2 days of damp conditions. So Dan, meteorologist Dan Tomaso, meteorologist Jackson Chastain, and myself will continue to watch here throughout the rest of this afternoon and this evening. If we see any stronger storms that do prompt a tornado warning, we will be back on the air. Thanks for watching this. We'll take you back to programming now.
Thanks for watching this ABC 27 News weather update.